Hello, I'm Heather Lee with the Safer Consumer Products program at DTSC. Welcome to our series of training videos on complying with priority product regulations. See the full list of videos on the SCP training materials webpage or in the YouTube description. This video is intended for manufacturers of priority products and will give you an overview of your options for complying with the priority product regulations. Hopefully, after watching the Who is a Responsible Entity video, you understand your duty to comply with a priority product listing. Here I'll give you a preview of the compliance options available to you. Other videos will give you more detail on each option, but let's begin with an overview to help you decide which video you'd like to watch next. After the priority product regulations become effective, all manufacturers of the priority product must submit a Priority Product Notification, or PPN, within 60 calendar days. There's no other options here. All manufacturers follow this part of the path. It's after the PPN that the options open up. First, if DTSC has issued an Alternatives Analysis Threshold, or AAT, and your product is below that threshold, please watch the video entitled Alternatives Analysis Threshold. But DTSC establishing an Alternatives Analysis Threshold may not be terribly common and potentially has a very different path for compliance, so that has its own video. Here I'll walk you through these other more common options. Alternatives Analysis, or AA, is the hallmark of the Safer Consumer Products program. This is where the manufacturer searches for alternatives to the priority product. Alternatives must address eliminating the chemical of concern, replacing it, or redesigning the product to reduce exposure to the chemical or the adverse impacts associated with it. Alternatives analysis comes in a few different flavors, and there are some slightly different ways to complete them. I'll discuss those AA-related options first, and then come back to this broader set of options. The goal of the alternatives analysis is to identify safer alternatives and avoid regrettable substitutes, like chemicals that have unknown hazard traits that might be just as bad as the original chemical. You'll accomplish this goal by comparing the priority product and its alternatives across a range of potential environmental and health impacts throughout the product's lifecycle. The AA is a public document that informs DTSC's regulatory response, but it's important to note that we have provisions that protect trade secret information. Such information will be reviewed only by DTSC and will not be divulged to the public. The standard SCP alternatives analysis is completed in 2 stages. In the preliminary AA, the manufacturer or responsible entity will screen a wide range of alternatives and select one or a few promising alternatives to be addressed in the final AA. The final AA is a much more thorough comparison between the priority product and those alternatives selected. As you're conducting your preliminary AA, you may discover that you're not finding safer or technically feasible alternatives to analyze further. In that case, you can complete an abridged alternatives analysis. The abridged AA includes the initial screening of the alternatives, as well as an economic analysis and a more detailed description of the product performance parameters. Once complete, this abridged AA will fast-track you to the regulatory response. The abridged AA is explained more fully in its own video. There are 2 alternate reporting options for an AA. You may be familiar with a different alternatives assessment framework and prefer to use it. If that's the case, you can use the aptly named Alternate Process AA. However, you will need to ensure that your report is substantially equivalent to the SCP AA. The second option is to submit a previously completed AA instead of going through the two-stage AA process. This option allows you to use an AA or alternatives assessment for the priority product that is publicly available or that you obtained. These are explained more completely in the alternate reporting options video. So those are the options available for the alternatives analysis. The standard two-stage process with the preliminary and final AA, each of which has its own video. The abridged AA for when you have not identified any alternatives that are safer or feasible. And the different reporting options if you would like to use a different alternatives assessment framework. Depending on which option you choose, you'll have different options when completing your AA report. But now I want to move on to an overview of 3 final options. These bypass the alternatives analysis, but are largely for those who plan to change their product or its market relatively quickly. All 3 are summarized in the removal or replacement notifications video. You can use the chemical removal notification if you realize the chemical of concern is not necessary for the function of your product and decide to simply remove it. You'll use CalSafer to notify SCP of your intent to do so and provide confirmation that it's been removed. It's more likely that you'll replace the chemical of concern with another chemical. In that case, use the product chemical replacement notification to give us specific information about the replacement chemical and any hazards associated with it. Later, you'll provide confirmation that you are indeed using the new chemical. The last option, the product removal notification, informs DTSC that the product will be or has been removed from the California market. Hopefully, this brief overview of the options available to manufacturers of priority products helps you decide which video to watch next. For more information, please refer to our SCP regulations webpage, where you can find more information about the SCP regulations and a link to the regulations themselves. If you have any questions, please contact us at saferconsumerproducts@dtsc.ca.gov. Finally, you are welcome to sign up for the SCP program email list or e-list to receive the latest information and updates from the department on upcoming regulations, events, and workshops. Thank you.